And what I was telling them was I kind of learned a lot myself. So.
Proud sponsor of Cultivate 918. Cultivate 918 was created to support the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Tulsa, so it's time for entrepreneurs and resource providers and community partners to come together and share best practices and learn from each other. We have a great panel tonight, PR 101 for startups. Before we get started, just a few announcements to make. For Startup Series, our applications are now open through May 3rd for the physical product, food, and retail category. To apply, simply create and upload a 60-second video pitching your business idea. To submit a video or learn more, visit tulsastartupseries.com. Our May Cultivate 918 meeting will be on entrepreneurship in Tulsa and the city's role in supporting entrepreneurship and small businesses. We'll be featuring our Chief of Economic Development, Kathy Taylor. So if you have any questions that you'd like answered in that meeting, you can email them to me. It's Natalie@lobecktaylor.com, or you can send us a Facebook message or tweet us, or you can send a message by a bird, whatever you want to do. I'd like to say that our delicious food was provided by Preston Cooks For You, which is a company through Kitchen 66. Kitchen 66 is our food incubator program that we support also through Lobeck Taylor Family Foundation. So I hope that you learned something new tonight and you meet someone new. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ashley Van Horne, who's our Director of Marketing and Communications at Lobeck Taylor Family Foundation.
Thanks, Natalie. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Like Natalie just said, I'm Ashley. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Lobeck Taylor Family Foundation. Cultivate 918 is really one of our flagship programs, and we're really excited that you guys could be here with us tonight for this panel about basically the basics of media relations and public relations. We're going to start off by kind of covering a few of the basics that I know a lot of you are interested in. We'll take some time to answer the questions that you have for the panel, and then we're going to do a really exciting kind of hands-on exercise to close out the night. So I'm excited to introduce you to this amazing panel of public relations and media women from Tulsa. Nicole Morgan is the CEO of Resolute PR, which is kind of our resident powerhouse public relations firm. They work with Impact Tulsa, Port of Catoosa, and they're also doing some really cool work on the Tulsa Flag Project. So thank you, Nicole, for being here. Meagan Farley is a reporter and anchor for Channel 6, maybe the most beloved reporter in all of Tulsa.
Okay.
Do a story on the foundation.
Absolutely, I need that.
Thank you so much for being here, Meagan. Meagan is notorious for doing lots of stories and being very passionate about Tulsa, and especially about our downtown community and everything that we have going on, and kind of what is making Tulsa just bigger and better every day. So we're really excited to have your expertise
I love this
tonight.
city, so I'm glad to be here. Can't wait to get all the questions and be honest, right? It'll be good.
Don't try to dig up any dirt.
I know, right?
Just the basics.
It's all good.
And last but not least, Ashley Parrish is at the end there. Ashley is an editor for the Tulsa World. She's the editor for the Scene section and also for Tulsa World magazine. Ashley started at Tulsa World when she was 15, which made me feel very unaccomplished. And she's been with Tulsa World her entire career, so she really has seen it all, and she's got some great insight that she's going to share with us tonight. So thanks for being here, Ashley.
Thank you.
So Ashley V and Ashley P up here on the stage. So just to kind of kick things off, Nicole, to start with you, why don't you just give everybody a quick background on why is public relations important?
Yeah, so public relations is really, for me, it's an umbrella term. I mean, there are a lot of things that fit into public relations and marketing and advertising. They really are all very connected in these days. So, if you run a story on Channel 6 or in the Tulsa World, it used to be back in the day, it would be in the print paper and someone would look at it and they might save it, and that was kind of the end of the story. Well, now it's not just being printed in the paper, or just being shown on television, but then it's also going online. And if you've ever known anybody who's been in the media, you can see how that can quickly start to go viral, people sharing it, people being tagged, and it just has a lot more legs than it used to. So getting awareness in the media is great for just overall awareness of your company, and it's a really important part of the marketing mix.
Yeah, absolutely. So if everybody had a chance to get a handout, and if not, I'm sure Natalie can kind of pass them out. One of the things that, back there in the back, one of the things that we wanted to cover kind of right off the bat is what's the difference between a press release and a media alert? And we're lucky enough that Resolute provided us with an example of both that you guys can take home. But Nicole, why don't you kind of take us through what's the difference between the two and when it's an appropriate time to send each of them out?
I'm going to guess that you guys probably hate press releases. We don't like them either. There are times when a press release is appropriate and there are times when it's not. So again, back in the day, you wanted a story, you wrote up a press release, you sent it off, and you would hope for a story. The reality is that almost no one is going to run a press release word for word. So the only time that a press release is really appropriate would be for an event, or if you have some kind of a big announcement where there are a lot of details that you want to make sure are communicated correctly. That's really when you'll have a press release. And there are kind of some major things you want to have in a press release. There's obviously, you want to start off with your news hook. Why is this important? And that should really, if you can't explain it in one sentence, then you've got to kind of go back and brainstorm that some more. Context is really helpful. So in something where you have a press release, you want to make sure that you have background information on why is this important? What's the magnitude of the situation? Why is this such a big deal? You're going to have a quote of some kind in there, and you want to make sure that that's authentic. It shouldn't look like a PR person wrote it. It should look like it came from a real person. And that we are real people, but it should look like it actually came from the person that the quote is coming from. And then kind of what's next? Why is this important? What are the next steps, and what are you trying to communicate with it? So those are kind of the main pieces of a press release. But more often than not, a simple email pitch to a reporter and just telling them, why is this important? Why does this apply to you? Why does this apply to your viewers and your readers? And then a media advisory, which is the other example that you have. And that is just like a really quick hit list of just the who, what, when, where, why. What are the coverage opportunities? And that just is, one sentence for each one, just real quick, so a reporter could look at that and understand why it's important and why they should cover it.
So I'd love to know, now that we kind of know the difference between each, and thank you for that, Nicole, both Meagan and Ashley, if you guys can answer, if you get 100 media alerts in a day, what stands out to you? What makes you decide, okay, this is a story that I want to do a piece on or that I want to run in the Tulsa world?
And we get a ton of them.
We do.
The inbox, usually you guys have a media list, and it goes to the assignment desk. They get everything, you put it in the folder, this and that, but we can get dozens of them a day, and they can get lost because we can only pick certain stories. And the way it works at 6 is we have an editorial meeting in the morning and in the afternoon, and we have a list of all of the press releases that have been sent for that day, and we literally just sit there and say, what's the most interesting, what's best for TV in our case, and the rest of them just, they go away. And so it's really important to get the hook, like you were saying. Make sure, we don't just want to who, what, when, where, why, because for us that doesn't make for good TV. If you're sending it to a TV station, have an interview available, somebody for us to talk to, have B-roll opportunities. We're going to need at least 1 minute and 15 seconds of TV time, so that's 20 minutes of footage for video. And, we need to, in TV, we need to tell a story. It can't just be like, hey, business A opened up and has 200 employees and they do this, Meagan Farley, News on 6. That's not it. We need a human emotion. So whether that be how the owner started the company, why they're doing it, an employee that they hired that has a neat story for us to build around that, because that will win your press release over, and you don't have to put too many words in it, because it's, like when you're looking at a resume, you have 10 seconds, and then, if you like the person out, that's how we are with press releases too. And we always need to see jobs, what impact, instead of just having an impact on one viewer or 5 viewers, tell a story that almost everybody would be interested in, how it benefits the community, or they could relate with it. So it's all about the pitch.
For us, it's 100% news hook. I want to know why I care, and more than why I care, why my readers care. What can you tell me that 80,000 people want to know? So between national, regional, and local pitches, I probably get 500 emails a day. A lot of them get lost. So I always tell people to follow up with me. I was just telling Ashley on the way in, I noticed that I missed one of her emails on the way in. But it's all about the news hook. It's all about what are you doing. Oh, sorry.
Double making.
It's all about what you know, what you're doing right now, and what you're acting on that we can come, that we can photograph, that we can see, that we can tell people about. And doubling up on what she said was, it has to have a story. So tell me why I care, and tell me about what kind of face we can put on it that's going to make other people care.
Yeah, that's great. And in terms of who to send them to, let's kind of tackle that topic. So, for example, Ashley is an editor, so if you can just kind of explain the difference between an editor and a writer, and who is it best to send it to, the editor or the writer? And then Meagan, if you can do the same, whether you prefer to receive pitches directly, or do you like people to go to the assignment desk first? How do you guys prefer to receive that information?
I mean, for me, I've got 5-6 writers underneath me. So it depends. I mean, I've got writers who have specific beats. So I've got a food writer, I've got a restaurant writer, I've got a music writer. If you're connecting with, if you want to develop relationships with them, it's great to pitch to them, because they have to come up with stories, all week. They have to come up with 4 or 5 stories. So they're always looking for that. And I have a really self-directed team, so I don't mind them getting pitches. But I also get a lot, and I'm kind of the overarching. I make sure that the section's going where I want it to go, and we're doing the kind of stories that I want done. But that doesn't mean that I don't get pitches and assign stories too, especially general interest stories. If it doesn't fit in a niche, if it's not a music story, if it's not a food story, magazine stories, we're always looking for interesting people. And a lot of times those come to me, and then I can say, oh, well, I've got a writer who has the perfect touch for that.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm from New Jersey. I talk a lot anyway, so with my hands and everything. I just went. My dad's here from New York just today. That's Jeff in the back, so I'm very excited to have you here. Thank you. He knows how much I love Tulsa, but yeah, it's very important. I do a lot of the downtown development, and as soon as I got here, I sensed that this community was very willing, most of them, to talk to reporters, to go out and get coffee with me, get lunch, whether it be the district attorney or the Ross group. I mean, high up people that will sit with us and talk to us, and because people get burned a lot, and the reporter changeover every 2 years, you're losing faces and getting a new one. So to build that trust is tough, but you just kind of start to get used to it. But I would very much suggest, we have beats too. Find out who now in TV we don't really have food writers, or it's a lot of general assignment, but we're assigned by counties, this and that. But either way, find out who has a passion or who writes a lot about the things you do, because FYI, as you said, every meeting, when I was reporting every day, we were responsible every day for bringing 3 lead-worthy stories. 3. The most anxiety of my day. And they just look at you and they're like, Meagan, and you're like, okay. So pitch. You'll get a bite every once in a while, but I would say always send to the assignment desk, follow up, send a few emails there, but find those reporters and email them directly, and because then you build a rapport with them and go to them and say, hey, in a week we're doing this really cool thing. So just to let you know, and it's a friendship and a partnership, and it really ends up going back and forth, because they want to do your stories, and they do, and then when you have something and you want to use them, you can benefit from one another, having that good relationship. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that Meagan said that I found to be true, I'm a Los Angeles transplant myself and worked in communications for many years in Los Angeles. And there, you email the editor-in-chief of the LA Times, like, sayonara. You're never going to get a response. You're never going to see that person in person. But we're lucky enough in Tulsa to have a small enough media market where you can develop those personal relationships, where you can email Meagan blindly and say, hey, I'd love to take you to coffee or take you to lunch and just learn about the station and how it works. Mm-hmm. And we're lucky enough to be in a market that actually does facilitate those kind of relationships, I think. Yeah. Nicole, do you have anything to add just about making that kind of personal relationship with the media?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important part for sure. The other thing that I'll add is if you think you have something newsworthy, think about what is that reporter looking for. So a TV reporter and a TV story is very different from a print story. So, Meagan can't do a story if she doesn't have visuals, and she doesn't have somebody that can talk, and she doesn't have somebody who can talk like today. It's probably not going to happen.
In 5 minutes.
For Ashley, it's going to be within the next couple days, but we've got a little more time. And your interview is probably going to take a lot longer too. She's probably going to want to talk to more people than Meagan will. She's probably going to need 2 or 3 sources. So the way the story comes together is very different. And if you don't have great visuals, then maybe it's a better print story. Not to say that there's not an opportunity for a photo, but you've got to think about, you know, kind of what is it they're looking for and what do they need to be able to produce their story. The more helpful you can be, the greater of an asset you're going to be for them, and the more likely they are to come talk to you again.
Mm-hmm. Another piece of that press release and media alert that I just want to hit quickly is just timeline. When would you recommend? How far in advance? When do you guys like to receive that information? Nicole, we could start with you.
Okay. I'll definitely be referring to them, but one thing that I will say is we have clients that come to us for an event that's happening in with 3 months or even like a month. That's forever away. So if you start sending something to the media, then it's gonna just get pushed down. So you just got to think of how quick of a timeline a reporter's working on, and I think it would be really interesting for each of you to just talk about how quickly you have to turn around a story, because that gives some good insight into kind of the window in which they're looking at, because, if you're editing video in your car, for example, that's going to change, a week from now is like a lifetime away. So that's kind of what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, where do I start? Yes, we have to come up with those story ideas. So what we need from you guys is availability immediately. And we get into the meeting at 9 or 2. We have to have something by noon. We have to have an interview. We need to be telling, at least one, we need to be telling our producers where our story's going. Channel 6, we're going to this whole digital platform. We're shifting things a lot, and we need to have a certain amount of Facebook posts, Twitter, but we need to be telling our story on social media by noon every day. So, we want it fast, we want it quick. We will get in and out with your interviews in 20 minutes, because we only have 1 minute and 20 to tell the entire story. So, if you can think of the key points you want to get across, we'll ask a few questions. You'll also be amazed. You're like, I just talked to them for 10 minutes and they used 2 sound bites. But we're just getting a feel of the story from you. So be ready to go as needed, quick, everything that you can lined up for a one-stop shop for us, and that will get your story covered a lot more quickly than otherwise. But also, you can send the press release 3 months out. It'll go in the file for that date. Please don't call and say, are you guys going to be at my event today? Okay. We'll try. We will try, but if there's breaking news, unfortunately, those things get pushed to the bottom. But we'll be at your event if the press release sounded interesting enough. It'll sell. It really will sell itself. So, and we try to, because we have so much every year we add another half hour to the newscast. We have so much content we have to fill. And so maybe yours might not be a lead at 5, but it might be a VOSOT, VO and soundbite on tape, that's what SOT is, at 9. It won't be in all of them, but we still love your content, so we'll make it fit somewhere.
So gone are the days of just print media, for one thing. We moved our news meeting up. We used to meet at 11 o'clock, and that was fine. We can't do that anymore. We meet at 9 o'clock or before now. And we are getting stuff on the web as quickly as possible.
That's the first thing. Yeah.
So we do need you. We need you to answer really quickly. It's amazing how many people you call and then you hear back from them a week later. And you probably missed your chance at a story then, because when we call you, you really need to be ready to go. Now, magazine, that's completely different. That's something that we have time to take some time with. But we are planning. I'm planning a month out. I'm in the features department, but I have been in the news department, and the news department is not planning a month out. If you send something a month out, it's great. It's nice to get it on our radar screen, but no, we're probably not going to remember it, and you're going to need to send 2 emails after that. I would say a good timeline is a couple days out, especially for news, and a week out maybe for features, and then remind me. For the magazine, pitch to your heart's content, and it'll go in a file, but we're always looking for big, long magazine stories. But we're a media company now, and we've got more readers than we've ever had, and most of those are on digital. And we're getting stories up as soon as we can get them up, and we've got almost 100 people in our newsroom, and they're that's what they're doing. They're putting up content all day long, so we're looking for it.
And another inside trick in the news and TV newsrooms, we have 9 or 9:30 editorial meetings for the day side, and we have a 1:30 or 2 in the afternoon. If you can pop that last press release when everybody is in the room together looking at somebody's email and that pops up and they're looking for story ideas, you're on everybody's radar right there. So, send it right before those 2 golden hours or during, and because you get automatic eyes on it. So that's something I've always remembered.
So certainly being mindful of what medium you are pitching and the different lead times for a TV spot versus a magazine article versus a newspaper article. Definitely some good insight there. So thanks, you guys. Let's shift gears just a little bit before we take some questions. And now that we have somewhat figured out, who feels intimidated and overwhelmed? Okay, no audience engagement. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate you guys. So let's shift gears a little bit. We know how to get the attention of the media. Now, if you get the attention of the media and you get an interview, a lot of people are very nervous or just don't know how to act on camera or just in a meeting with a reporter if it's just a print interview. So Meagan, let's start with you and just your best live interview tips for somebody that's never been on TV before.
I truly am amazed by people who are not used to being on television. And when I get to them with a photographer, a huge camera, a light in their face, I'm micing them up, I don't know how more people don't absolutely freak out when I try to talk to them. It really, but, and most reporters who have been doing it a while, we know we like to talk to you a little bit beforehand to just get you comfortable. And a reporter should have an interview technique to make whoever they're interviewing, just feel like it's a continuation of the conversation. What we need from you guys, though, is our sound bites are 10 seconds, 12 seconds max, preferably 8. Speak in sound bites. If you say something and it takes 20 seconds to get it out, it's not making the piece. It's just not. And also, it's just try to be as comfortable and conversational as you can, and feel free to ask us questions. A lot of times it never really helps to be like, can you give me the questions first? No, I don't do that. I'll talk to you a little bit about where I want the story to go and what we're focusing on, but I won't give questions ahead of time. And you just it's not, most of the time it's not live interviews. We don't do those because they're too dangerous. You don't know who you're talking to, and the next thing you know, you've got something crazy on live TV. So we don't like to do those too much. But keep it concise, keep it brief. Don't sound too rehearsed. Because we only can pick 3 or 4 sound bites to use. So have emotion in it, feel comfortable, and those are the ones that we pick. Mm-hmm. So. That was
Ashley. Yeah, I would love to know, just Ashley, then what's the difference? What's the difference if you're in a print interview? You do have a little bit more liberty to be a little bit more long-winded, and what's the difference?
That's true. And it depends on what kind of story you're working on. If it's a breaking news or if it's a press conference, then it's going to be very similar. And we're probably going to have a video camera in your face now, too, because that's just where we are in the media landscape now. But for a feature story, for a new business story, we're going to spend some time with you. We'll probably send a reporter out. We'll send a photographer out. And they may want to talk to you for an hour, hour and a half, depending on how much time they have. Or they may have 5 stories that day and they have 10 minutes. But probably you're going to spend more time with a print reporter than a TV reporter. That's very true.
Yeah.
And Nicole, what would be kind of your top pieces of advice for somebody that's never been in an interview before?
I have a few. One is that nothing is off the record. So if everybody can just please never ever say this is off the record but blah blah blah. If you say it in the presence of a reporter, it is fair game. So don't ever say that and think that it works, because it doesn't. That's not fair to the reporter. You've now put them in a position where they're hearing stuff that is not supposed to be public, and you put it out there. So don't ever say that. The other thing is that don't think by hiring a PR person that you're getting a spokesperson, because nobody is the best spokesperson for your business but you. So, you need to, I think that's very hard for entrepreneurs. We're just totally fish out of water. We're trying to figure out how to make payroll and stuff, let alone having to get out and talk about our business. That can be very uncomfortable, but you have to do it because you are your best spokesperson. And so I would just say, like, having confidence in that and practicing. It's just like making a sales pitch to someone. You just got to be confident and be able to speak on the record and talk about your business in a way that's exciting, because nobody's going to be more passionate about it than you are. So don't try to, give that responsibility to someone else on your team or someone that you hire. That it needs to come from you.
Just to add to the off the record type thing, I agree. Be careful. You never know. Again, the turnover with reporters. Some reporters will burn you. I have found, I get a lot of my stories from off the record. A lot of the development stuff that's happening down here. I sit on things for 6 months because luckily I've built up a trust with a lot of the people that I have not burned them. But there's a transparency that you want to have with reporters. So the whole off the record thing, but if you just say, on background, just to kind of say, there's going to be something else announced on this in about 2 weeks. So just, and here's a little hint, because I like for them to tell me so I kind of get a scope of what we're talking about. And for the most part, if you've got a good reporter, they're not going to burn you. But yes, I mean, it's a good, until you trust that person, it's like our mics are always hot. Whenever we have them on, even if we're in a commercial break, if that guy in audio doesn't like you, you're in trouble. So yeah, just be careful. But once you do trust somebody, that reporter will give you good stories, will give you coverage, you will go to them, and you'll get, building that relationship, especially in this market where it's very possible, is key.
I completely agree with that. I mean, when somebody goes off the record with us, we're going to hold that. We're going to hold that trust. To your point, it's true. Sometimes you are giving a reporter something that, if you're going off the record, they need that information, but you're not helping them with that information. That's a tough position to put a reporter in. But we're going to hold that confidence. But it is true. That's how we find out a lot of things. If something's coming down the pike, and it's newsworthy, and it has a good news hook, and that we're going to want to know about it, but you're not ready to go public with it yet, but you just want it to be on our radar screens, we want to know it.
The other thing that I'll add to that is that if you do that when you get to that point, this is like fate. Like once you get to a certain level, then you can start doing that kind of a thing. But know that if you do offer up that type of information, you also kind of have to keep the trust of that reporter. Then you also have a responsibility to give them, first dibs on that, yes, or some kind of a special angle. Like you're entrusting them to hold on to that story, which is a big deal for them. And then in return, you also owe them for doing that.
I think that one other thing that is just kind of a common mistake that I've seen in a lot of people when they're starting out in the world of media relations, and Meagan, you touched on this a bit earlier, but if you are looking to get coverage and you decide that you want to take the angle of going straight to reporters or straight to writers, Meagan and Ashley, how do you guys feel? Like, Meagan, if somebody sends you a pitch and then sends your fellow reporter the same pitch, is that okay? Do you prefer, if you're getting pitched, to have a certain amount of time to respond? Because to me, there's nothing that makes you look worse than sending 6 reporters at the same station the exact same pitch, and same thing in the newsroom as well.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. But again, don't do that. Again, it's about building that relationship. Find that reporter you can latch onto, but also always send to the assignment desk. So it will come up from your neutral source, the assignment desk, but yes, you can also very quickly make us not want to cover your stories anymore. If you promise something to us, if we sit on it for 6 months, we get excited about it, and then you give it to somebody else, that really, really burned you. Not that we would ever do a negative piece on you, but you're not on our top of our priority list to want to tell your story that much anymore because you weren't there for us and whatever. Either way, I won't get started too much on that. But, always send to the assignment desk and then shoot to one reporter that has an interest in that, and then leave it be, because if it doesn't get covered then, it's not.
I'm okay with pitching to several people at the same organization, but I want the courtesy of knowing that you did it.
Yeah.
So you would be shocked at how often both the business department and the scene department show up at the same assignments because they didn't tell us that the other person pitched. And it's amazing how often the source will talk to 2 different reporters and not tell us that they talked to the other one. That's maddening. So, for example, you guys have businesses. I can very much see you pitching to the business department because we've got 3 business reporters that are great and pitching to me because it's a food business or it's a great human interest story. And we might both really be interested, but you need to think about which section you want to be in. And if you do pitch to both of us, just say, hey, I'm CCing here.
Yeah, that's great advice.
That works too.
One thing I'll add to that then would be that because we are kind of a smaller market, we, unlike large cities where they've got tons of magazines and like specialty publications and several different daily newspapers, all this stuff, we just don't have that in Tulsa. So that's the other reason why you wouldn't want to just, use one pitch and send it to a bunch of different people, because if everybody picked it up, and then you go back to the Tulsa World the next week and you're like, hey, I've got this other story. And you're like, okay, well, we just covered you and we can't do that again. So you've got to kind of like time it out right too. So don't get too like overzealous. If you get a pitch, you've got to kind of like spread the love. And that's why you want to make sure that the reporters that you're pitching stuff to, that they, it's kind of unique to them. It's what they're interested in, and you have different angles on things.
Absolutely. Very good point. And I think I'll wrap up kind of our conversation and then turn it over to you guys with just one more quick thought, and that is, if you're somebody that is tackling these things for the first time, maybe a little intimidated, maybe a little bit overwhelmed at all of these suggestions, what are your guys' feelings about follow-ups? So if I'm someone that's never pitched the media, I send Meagan, I send Ashley a story, they don't respond, I go, meep, nobody likes my product. What's your thought on follow-ups? How many times do you like it? Do you prefer that people don't follow up? What's your guys' take?
I need a couple more minutes.
Okay. For me, I'm okay with it, and I prefer it because emails do get lost and they do just get overwhelmed, or I might open something and think, oh, I'll come back to that, and then I never do. So yeah, follow up with me. I don't mind following up with me a couple of times by email. I'm horrible on the phone. I'm horrible with voicemail, and that's just, I'm too busy to sit down, and that flashing red light just haunts me all day long on my voicemail.
I haven't checked them.
Exactly. So, and I have my mobile on my signature, and I'm okay with texts. So send me emails, and if I send you something back, feel free to use that. But yeah, I think that's my only advice.
And I did say before, don't call and ask if are you covering my event, because one thing, phones, landlines, I can't remember the last time I used mine. But and I can't answer your question, are we going to, and we don't have time to talk about that. So yes, if the day of your event, shoot a reminder email again, and the press release or whatever you had sent earlier, because a lot of times they'll be like, oh my gosh, I really wanted to do that, but I forgot about it. So I'm totally cool with follow-ups or texts, just one the day of or even the day before, and then you just leave it alone.
Yeah. What about you, Nicole? Anything?
I think they answered that one.
That's about how you would. That's about how you would do it.
All of that.
Okay. Well, thanks. Were you to say something?
Be honest with the report. I mean, if you're a new business, just be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you make sure that I don't ramble? Like, if I sound like an idiot, tell me to start over. And it's fine, because a lot of the reporters you're going to get are intimidated by your story. They don't know you yet. A lot of the reporters in this market are in their first or second job, so they're learning too. And again, that all just builds the comfort level and the rapport, and just have fun.
Yeah. And I think it's great to remember too, like you said, more often than not, you're not live. And so if you start answering a question and you're on camera and you get to a point where you're like, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore, it's okay to stop and say, can I start over? Because they can cut and edit that. Now, Meagan might kill you if you do that 10 times. This isn't like...
If you have to stop and start over, it's already in my head. I'm like, can't use that, can't use that, can't use that. So stop yourself instead of me having to cut you off. But,
right,
yeah.
right. Okay, so I think we're ready to take some audience questions, so would love to know what is on your guys' mind. Jack.
So I'm curious, with the recent United PR disaster, or whatever, what's your relationship like between the PR firm and the media outlets? And do you work with each other? Do they respect your rules, or do you have rules? Or and how do you handle a disaster if it comes up?
Yeah, I think there's really two questions there, and way to start us off on a really high note, Jack. Let's first tackle Nicole, what do you do if there's a disaster? Now, granted, with everybody kind of first starting out and pitching their new products and new business ideas, hopefully you're not starting off on a disaster, but I think it's a great topic to hit. So let's get your thoughts, Nicole.
Gosh. Okay, well, first of all, if you have a disaster or you think you may have a disaster coming, you need to tell your PR person, like, as soon as you think there is any chance of a disaster, because that's going to help you be more prepared if a disaster hits. So that would be the first thing. Okay. The second thing is, when you're in the thick of a disaster, more than likely it's not going to last forever. So just try to relax a little bit. From the PR person perspective, I consider myself a little bit of the peacemaker, kind of I'm kind of the go-between everything. I've got to make sure that the reporters have the information that they need and that they're feeling like they're being taken care of. There's probably going to be an attorney involved who doesn't want you to say anything, and so I've got to get them to loosen up a little bit. Sorry, Brittany's in here, and I'm sure there are other attorneys too. But so those are things that can kind of collide. And then I've got to make sure that you're not just saying stuff just to say it, or that you're not thinking through what you're going to say. You've got to take a little bit of time to make sure that you have your thoughts in a row. So those would be the things. But in terms of how we work with the media, it's really making sure that we're providing them as much information as we can as soon as it's possible to provide that information. And if we come to a reporter and we're like, we can't say anything right now, but as soon as we have something that we can tell you, I promise we're going to tell you. You've got to follow through on that and tell them something as soon as you can. And even if it's just a little bit of something, just a tiny bit of something that you can tell, that's going to go a long way in a situation where you can't say very much.
And you've probably heard it before, but no comment is a comment.
Yes.
And, if it's all about, I keep bringing up transparency, but if something is going on, we're on a deadline. We have to tell a story. And if you choose to not talk, that story is they would not talk to us. We've tried. It doesn't play well on anybody. So, give us whatever. But we understand, most reporters, I keep saying that, but we get it, but just have a line of communication and, just know that we have a job to do as well. So anything you guys can help us with, be transparent.
And address it quickly, or it actually hangs out there and it stays in the news cycle for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you address it, things go away. We have a very short attention span, 2 days, 3 days. But if you don't answer us, then we're like, what's going on there? Something, we might have to stay on this a little longer. So.
And if you don't say anything and then a week later you do an interview on something, you need to still have a response prepared, because they're probably going to ask about it when they have the chance.
Yeah, I think it's always important to keep a bird's eye view of your relationship with the media. If you decide to not cooperate at any given time, whether it's in a disaster or with something great that you want to release, but if you are going to not cooperate with the media in any way, really taking that bigger look and saying, well, when I need coverage or when I want a positive story, even just 3 weeks, 3 months down the road, you want to still have that relationship intact. Other questions? Yeah?
Does Resolute PR offer media training services?
The question is, does Resolute PR offer media training services? I'll let you answer that, Nicole.
Thank you for the question, Lacey Taylor from Resolute PR. We do. But I will say, so we actually, we bring in a former reporter. The biggest thing that can help you feel comfortable is just practicing and getting comfortable with it. As you all can probably tell, when I talk, I use my hands a lot and my eyes get really big. So that's something that I have to work on all the time. And I did not know that I did those things until I saw myself on camera. So being able to do that and just practice and get through it, understanding the ins and outs, a lot of things that we talked about today are things that we talk about in media training. And it's the practicing part that helps people feel more comfortable.
Yeah. I tend to tuck my chin down like this,
which
is not a good look for anybody. Yeah. So when you notice me sticking my chin out, it's because I've done media training. Other questions? Yeah.
So taking the flip side of it, when are some situations when somebody should not seek out a PR?
Sure. So the question is, when should you not seek out PR? So what would you guys say? I mean, that's tough. I think it just depends on if what you've got is newsworthy or not, and that's so personal to each individual. But do you guys have?
Like, for example, a lot of startups are kind of notorious for wanting to just get, PR attention, let's put out our T-shirts, and you're not actually really ready for business. That's one example.
Yes, that's a great question. So he followed up with some more specifics, and that is, if you're a startup and you just kind of have a concept and you were super excited and got your T-shirts and your water bottles made, but you haven't really gotten any further with your business plan, at what point is it a good time to introduce yourself to the media?
Do you guys want to go first?
Okay. I know, let me start over. One thing that I have learned that a lot of people don't understand is once any sort of public document is filed, whether it be a building permit or anything, we can get our hands on it, and that means it's a story. And so, I'm sounding a little harsh here, but it's true, because a lot of people are like, Meg, I told you I'd come to you with the story, and I said, at the TDA meeting, they talk. It's public, and a lot of times. So as soon as something is filed in a public space, it's a story already. So just know that. But I'm kind of going to pass it to you on when to get PR involved or anything, because we're much more of a daytime.
Right.
We can't really sit on stories that much or wait. But I do like to, as a reporter, sometimes if the PR firm is not the best one, which is not the case here, but we work with some that aren't. It's an extra step for us to have to deal with. So a lot of times we like just working with people directly, but we have some great PR firms in town here that really understand what we're looking for and can get it for us pretty quickly.
So it's about that news hook. So I want you guys to get us involved when you're actually doing something. So, and every once in a while, it's that idea, and it's $1 million idea. And I'm so interested that I'm going to come write about it anyway because it's such a great idea. But otherwise, I want to know that you're in a building. I want to know that you have an open date. I want to know that you're going to be ready for all the people who come when they read about it. So I wouldn't be caught flat-footed. I wouldn't get us involved if you're not ready yet. But like Megan said, if there is a building permit, we check building permits. I mean, if there's, and I care very much if there's a new restaurant coming, if there's a shop coming downtown. I mean, I will cover that. And so if you have a building, you're doing something, and I care.
Yeah, I mean, I think strategically, you can't help if they're going to see something that's already been filed as a public document, but if you can help it, I would say like whenever you have some kind of an action that can be taken, or if you have a rendering of a building, that's something that they can be talking about, or you think of the things that a reporter needs to be able to make a good story, and when you have some of those things in place, then it's probably an appropriate time to start thinking about that. I will say, like, if you're planning to work with a PR firm or a marketing firm or anything like that, the sooner you can get them involved, the better, just because, again, like kind of going back to what I very first started with, the media coverage is just one piece of your overall marketing plan. So, things like how your social media is going to be interacting when you have stories that are coming out, or what does your website look like when people get there? These are all things that you want to be thinking about so that you're set up for success that when you do start having those stories come out.
I think it's always good to view your pitch as what action item comes out of this. So if it's a restaurant, can people come down to eat your food? Can people buy your product somewhere? So when a news article or a TV piece runs, what are the readers or the viewers then going to be able to do with your company or with your product? Kind of what's that action item that comes out of it? Other questions? Yeah.
Sort of on continuation of both those comments. Generally speaking, as you're going through your business, you have these events that come and go, and you kind of don't know whether or not they're newsworthy. Is there sort of like examples or types of things that in the business where you could identify the newsworthy event as it goes by? Because you could be done with it in a month later because that's a great story. Why didn't you ever tell anybody about that?
Yeah, so just to repeat the question is just if you've got several events coming in and out of the pipeline, how do you know what is newsworthy and what isn't? And again, I think it is very specific to just what it is. But Nicole, do you have some examples of what might be good to get press coverage for and what you might let slip by the wayside?
Yeah, there are going to be those they're kind of different categories. I mean, anytime there's any kind of a conflict or two sides of the story or something that's going to be impacting a large group of people, that's going to be newsworthy. If you sometimes it's just like Lobeck Taylor brought in for, I guess it wasn't Cultivate, but Greta, a national expert on something coming here. That's a great example. Something that's just kind of quirky or interesting, that could be a good story. I think where you start kind of running into issues is when something is too salesy. Because sales does not equal news. That equals advertising. And that's what they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you this is probably something that's better suited for advertising. So if it's too salesy, if it doesn't provide something to the public for free that is informational and interesting, then it's probably not going to get picked up.
Absolutely. I mean, I always, and with what you do with the paper, I get shot down because they're like, it's an ad. That's an ad. So just know, again, like what we've talked about for TV, have your video, have your good sound bites. We call them, dog and pony shows, or those are when you have a podium up there and just somebody talking at it and people lined up, with shovels. That's great, and we'll do a little announcement. I can't make a story out of that. So again, have how many jobs it's impacting, what it means for the community, so all of our viewers appreciate and can take something away. What are the viewers taking away from this, Meagan? I get that all the time. So, give me something to say.
Yeah. So. I'm shocked by how many times I get a pitch that I have this idea, I want to start this business, I'm looking for funders. I'm looking for partners. I'm looking for people to support my GoFundMe. If you're not at an action stage, then we're probably not going to do the story, and we're probably not going to do a story just to get you your funders. Good tip.
I would just say do some research too. I mean, just sit and watch the news for a few nights before you start pitching a story. Look at what types of things are they covering? Is this interesting? Is it not? Does my story fit into that? Read the paper. Go through and look at the stories and the types of things that they're covering. That's going to give you a really good. Those are all clues into what is going to get picked up and what's not.
Yeah. Can I?
Yes.
Add on to that. I did want to leave everybody with that, which is if you want to be in the paper, read the paper. Because we all have beats. You need to know which writers are writing the kinds of stories that you want to pitch to. So if you're going to pitch a quirky human interest story, you need to know that Jimmy Trammell in the scene department likes to write 80-inch opuses that are heartwarming and wonderful. I mean, you need to know those writers. And then this is a little side pitch, but if you haven't subscribed to the newspaper, digital, $3.95 a month now. That's huge for us. TulsaWorld.com/subscribe. There's no excuse for not having a subscription anymore. Read it, know it, and then you know what to pitch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Questions? Yeah?
I kind of have a two-part. Is a media kit still something that is used in the industry, and what and when would that be appropriate to? I mean, what would be involved in those now? I mean, it's shifted so much to digital
Yes.
that I'm curious if that's changed at all. And then as far as media contacts, like actually having like Meagan at Channel 6 or Ashley at Tulsa World, is there any kind of a database or anything of that nature that is going to? I mean, I'm willing to do all kinds of research, but is there an easy way to go about that as opposed to spending days upon days?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I actually want to start with that half of your question, then we'll come back to the media kit. But
Okay.
she was asking, we've talked a lot about how to develop and the importance of developing those personal relationships, but actually getting the contacts. And so that's a question that we got a lot on social media leading up to this is how do you go about actually getting the email address and phone number for the reporters or the writers that you're trying to reach? She asked, is there a database, or if there's not, what's a good way to go about that?
So a lot of, like Tulsa World, you guys have all your email addresses on there.
Yeah, they're on the stories.
And I do you guys?
I think there's
Some
a
stations
contact, and then
do.
sometimes,
Yeah.
I don't even know. We did, we didn't, we did. So
Yeah.
sometimes they make it hard for people to email us, and I wish they would make it a lot easier,
Yeah.
but I got to check.
So I'll let them kind of dive into that more. The other thing is, like, especially if we're working in a market outside Tulsa, we subscribe to a software called Cision, and that's like a giant database of reporters. It's really expensive, and probably for a startup, it's probably not something you want to invest in. But that is an option. But other than that, there's not really anything out there. It's just like kind of, making the contacts and getting in front of them and creating those relationships.
So media packet later. We're talking about that.
Yeah,
second.
let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think again the relationships, but you can always call the assignment desk, call the main number, and just ask. Because in TV, it's all general assignment. I mean, until I got this morning show thing, I had to do a story every day on whatever the big news was. I always wanted to do the downtown development stuff, but those got pushed aside. Now I can do those, and that's all I have to do. But so make sure that you definitely just find out what the passion of a certain reporter is just by watching and seeing the stories that they do. But call up the assignment desk, say who really enjoys doing your business writing, or is there anybody, Emery's education, Lori's crime, and the assignment desk will normally tell you, and they'll normally give you an email address too, but if not, there's ways to find it. Everybody is newson6.net, first name, last name. Sometimes just try a few of them, you'll get them eventually.
As for the editors in the newsroom, we're all on page 2. You want to know who the scene editor is? My phone number's there. Although I told you not to call, but still, if you have to, call. As for the reporters, all of their email addresses, their Twitter handles, and their phone numbers are right there on the story. So find a story that's similar to yours and reach out to that person. Otherwise, news@tulsaworld.com, scene@tulsaworld.com, business@tulsaworld.com, those go to specific departments. Oh, and does AWC, the Association of Women in Communications, I believe they have a media
Do they
list
have one?
too. That's a good organization to.
Sorry, I
Is
can
it true?
answer that because I'm in that organization. It's called Association for Women in Communications. It's just an industry organization nationally, but they have a local Tulsa chapter. They used to provide a media list regularly, but it changes so much.
Okay.
So now they've gone to they recently hosted a media kind of relations workshop, and if you attended the event, they gave you that list at the event. I think they plan to do it again in the fall. I'm not sure at this point, but that's how they do it. It's kind of event-based.
We all have social media now. We have to have I have a fan page, my News on 6 page. I have a Twitter handle, Instagram a lot. Go through and find us and like our pages and follow us on Instagram, because you can direct message me, you can message me on Facebook, and we are on those phones and iPads all day long. And so a Facebook message we'll probably see faster than if you call us and leave a voicemail.
Yeah.
So find everybody on social media. And that's also another way you'll kind of start to see the niche of the reporter and what they like to cover, because they'll post a little something. It may not be a story, but they'll take a picture of something cool downtown or something, and you're like, oh, they're in Okmulgee or they're in Muskogee. So you start to kind of understand just by their posts.
Yeah.
I would love your feedback on media kits. I have
Oh,
my
yeah.
answer, but I actually don't know how
let
you
me
feel
let me
about that.
repeat
Okay.
the question just so everyone can hear it. So the second part of that question was about media kits. So media kits were something that we haven't covered yet, and that's something completely different than a press release or a media advisory. The question was, do people still do that, and if so, when is it appropriate?
So it's like a folder. And you like put a sticker on the front with your logo on it, and then you fill it up with all the information, bios and pictures and CDs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I still like them. I like a media kit because, again, with only having a minute and 20 seconds, If you can put all the nuts and bolts of your business, what you do, who you are, when you're opening, what you serve, put it all in there, because then I don't have to ask you the questions when we're out there, because again, the sound bites I want are emotional ones. I'm not going to put a sound bite in my story that says, we are business A and we make sandwiches. That's not going, that's will be included in the story. But if I can get a media kit and just as I'm writing the story be like, okay, you can never put too much information in those, and I always enjoy those. But my executive producer said to tell all of you guys that something he got recently was just a thumb drive from a business, and it had their logo on it. And we love thumb drives. We keep those. We use those again. And you just pop it in, and everything's digital instead of actually having hard copy. And I was like, very good. So I like that. Yeah.
Would something like that normally come if you're trying to get the hook, or after? I know that you're gonna.
For the media kit, for you include the hook, huh? Oh, so you're asking.
As far as the pitch, I'm sorry, I said that.
Does that come in the media kit, or?
Yeah. Would you send the like a thumb drive or the media kit to you when I'm first pitching, or would it be something like we've talked and you said, yeah, I'd like to, cover this, and then send it? Doesn't
why don't?
I would give it like when you're actually doing the story, like when you meet them.
Not at the
then
event.
You would give.
Well,
Not at the event.
Well, yeah. Let me think. Give me a second. I need to think.
Ashley.
Yeah. Why don't you take over
Ashley,
this?
our
So,
savior.
well, there's been different scenarios.
If it's a complicated issue, then a media kit's great. If I can have a fact sheet, info, especially like at a press conference or something, and if you have who's speaking, that's great. We don't have to worry about spelling names because it's right there. If it's not in a case like that, I really don't want it. It's just more paper on my desk. Electronic is different, but even then, I'm probably not going to open it until I've assigned it and I need something out of it, and usually that is only high-res art. It's pretty much the only thing I need from a press kit.
Yeah.
Tell me succinctly in an email what the story is, why I care about it, send me art when I need it, and I don't need the really complicated media kit.
Yeah, just art. That's what we need too. If there's a story with limited B-roll, send us pictures, send us, anything you can. It really helps.
Yeah, I think they usually come into play most when it's like the first time a reporter's meeting with you and there's someone who could potentially be writing a lot of stories about you, or an event, like if there's some kind of a grand opening or something where there's just a lot of information to go through. For the most part, I actually don't even know the last time I did a media kit, to be honest. I don't do
That
a
might
whole
just
lot
be
of
my
them.
preference. I just like to have it.
Yeah.
And I think the cool thing too, when you do see any of these ladies disagreeing on an approach, or you're seeing their different personalities come through, and the reality of the situation is if you're in this room and you're a startup or you're a small business, you probably don't have the financial resources to hire a Nicole or a Resolute PR, and that's why you're here. You're trying to get tips of how do I navigate this myself. And I will say, and I'm sure the girls will agree, that PR and communications in general, it's kind of a scrappy deal. If you can't find a contact, you got to find out how to find that contact. Like, you stalk somebody on social media, you Google past press releases that might have the information at the bottom. Like, I won't get into all of my stalkerish techniques.
We all have strategies, yeah.
But it's definitely, you just have to be persistent, and it's a lot of trial and error and just seeing what works and what doesn't. And as you get to know the different people in your media market, knowing that Ashley Parrish will throw away your media kit if you send it to her.
So harsh.
But knowing that Meagan only wants it on a thumb drive, and those are really only things that you know as you put forth the effort to actually get to know your media personalities. They are people with real preferences and different preferences. I think if it's cool with you guys, we're going to wrap up and move on to our, yes.
One last question. If I'm kind of right there at the fork in the road, and I don't want to roll the dice and just send a PR release to the Tulsa World, Channel 6, or anyone else, should I probably engage Nicole and say, if you have the funds to go ahead and engage the PR firm, is that the best route? Or would you say, you know what, roll the dice, Ashley will fix your PR release for you?
That's a great question. So his question is, if you're at kind of a fork in the road, you are thinking about sending a release out to the press, you're not quite sure if you can afford or need the help of a PR firm, is it better to roll the dice and send it yourself and hope that they take the best pieces out of it? Or is it best to engage a publicist for their opinion?
I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Well, I was talking to everybody, but you asked the question about what is your bigger strategy. And so if it's a story where this is something that's part of a bigger strategy, I think that would be wise. You can get a great story from the media, but it's going to be one outlet, and you've formed a great relationship there. But like also thinking about what is the bigger strategy for that story, and how are you wanting it to, where are you wanting it to get to eventually? So that's something where, that is why people hire us, to kind of think through that and make sure that we're keeping the bigger plan in the back of our minds. I'll also say that, like, if you're a startup, we're a startup, but we get it. And we work here. You can come talk to me. Obviously, if you come talking to me every single day, I'm going to have to say we should probably start, like, getting paid. But if you want to grab coffee or just talk about something, totally happy to do that. Anybody on our team would say the same thing. We want to see you all do well too. So that don't feel like it's going to be a huge cost to just get someone's opinion on something.
As far, and again, this could just be personal preference for me. As I said, we get so many press releases a day. They all start to look the same to us. I personally sometimes don't even open them if it's a press release, because I know it's gone to so many people, and it's just another press release. If I get an email from a business owner that's launching a new business, just, hello, I'm starting this out, again, just 4 or 5 little bullet points of what you're doing, and hey, would love to get coffee and talk, or here's my story. Ask me what the best strategy would be for you. Most of the time I'll respond to that more personally than I will a press release, but always still send a press release, but find that reporter.
I agree with that too. If it's simple, just reach out. When a PR person for me really comes into play, because like I'm on the feature side, but is we do have relationships with most of the PR people in town, and you do start trusting them, and you do know that when they tell you, hey, X, Y, or Z, you need to know about it. You know who to start listening to, and it's going to be done in a certain way. So a new club opened here not too long ago, and it was the PR person who got me so excited about it. I was like, okay,
Unicorn Club?
Yeah. And I was like, what? I want a slideshow on that, and we got 500,000 views off of that because they set it up in a way that they knew. Yeah, they set it up in a way that they knew how to get us in, how to get us out, how to get the photos taken. So, but I don't know if you always need one, but there's a reason that they are here.
So thank you guys so much for all of that amazing expertise. We're going to move into our last kind of little bit of this, and that's our hands-on exercise. This might push a few of you outside your comfort zone, but that is the point. So what we're going to ask you guys to do is grab a partner, and you guys are just going to take turns taking iPhone videos of each other just with your personal phone, and you're going to answer 3 questions. 3 questions. They're really basic.
It'll be fun.
Who are you? What are you doing? And where can I learn more? Okay, so that's what you're going to do. Film each other. Who are you? What are you doing? Where can I learn more? And I want you guys to do it at least twice through each. My hope is that tonight when you go home or in the next couple days, you can then review your different takes and kind of start to see what your maybe nervous tics might be, and realize that it might be harder to talk about your company in 30 seconds or less than you thought.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be an official closing, so I would just recommend that you guys take 15 minutes as long as you need. The panelists and myself will still be here if you guys want to ask any questions, and we'll try to float around and give feedback. But thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you. Good
Yeah,
luck.
it's great. And if you're interested in future meeting topics, you can always subscribe to our newsletter at www.cultivate918.org. Or as Natalie mentioned, we are on Facebook and Twitter as well. So thank you guys for your expertise. And grab a partner and get awkward. Let's do it.